I hate the idea that someone out there hates me. I even hate thinking that Al-Qaeda hates me. I think if they got to know me, they wouldn't hate me.
The first time I heard about Pam hating was from a friend in December of 2017. As I scrolled through the comments, I couldn't help but feel the need to stand up for this fictional person, but I decided against it because who cares is my general stance towards things people post on Facebook. Recently though, Screen Rant posted a video about how terrible Pam Beesly is, which sparked my curiosity again. And since I started this channel, which has been pretty office heavy to start with, I thought I'd make a video at some point in the next couple years in Pam's defense. That was until a couple weeks ago when I saw Facebook and Reddit set ablaze with hatred towards Pam, essentially vilifying her to just a nonsensical point. And I want to be really clear about this. This isn't a pro-Pam video. I'm not going to give you the top 10 things Pam's ever done. The argument is that Pam is the worst, and that's all I intend to resolve here today. I'll let you argue out the specifics in the comments. I figured the best way to frame this video is to first explain who, and well, really more clearly, what the character of Pam Beesly Halpert really is. The Office is a pretty simple show. At first glance, it's a comedy, but dig under the surface and there's so much more going on. The Office is a show about flawed people learning lessons and becoming better people. Every character has an arc. While some are more in the foreground than others, each character has times of high highs and times of low lows. Jim and Pam, however, have a special slot in the roster of The Office characters. Along with Michael Scott, they share the role of being the heart and soul of the show, but Jim and Pam have an even more special role than Michael. They spend most of the series as the neutral man and woman. The idea of a neutral man or woman is heavily used in film, television, and even video games. Often the lead character maintains a fairly neutral response to events that are occurring around them. Think John Wick's neutral face while straight up murdering hundreds of people over the course of a couple days. When done correctly, writers and directors employ the neutral character to allow us, the audience, to engage with the story in a more personal way. Back to the original point, Jim and Pam are purposefully written as relatively normal individuals with the express purpose of allowing us, the audience, to experience the craziness of The Office through them. While Jim Face is more renowned, both of these characters glance at the camera every time something bonkers happens. This grounds us in reality because now we know that the wackiness that we're seeing happening in the show isn't just normative in The Office's universe either. So now that we've established what Pam's character is for, let's take a look at the arguments piled up against her. To make this not petty and drama-free,
and I hate drama, so there you go.
You love drama.
I know, I do, right? I'm a total drama queen.
I'm going to break these arguments down into two categories. The first category is things people don't like about Pam, and the second thing is things Pam did that people don't like. Let's jump in. Things people don't like about Pam. Common arguments here devolve real quick, but they revolve around her being too emotional, too insecure, and overall not funny. Unfortunately, these are highly subjective arguments that rarely have any empirical evidence for and are mostly left to the realm of the person's opinions, which is 100% fair. But I think these are actually extremely easy to have a conversation with when you look at it logically. There are 201 episodes of The Office spanning 9 seasons. Do these character traits really embody the character that spans the entire series? I think not. As discussed, Pam is more often than not a neutral character. And if you don't think Jenna Fischer's portrayal of Pam is funny, that's fine. It doesn't make the character deserve the hate. But the second category is things Pam did that people don't like. These are arguments that I typically see. The first is a set of problems in the early seasons of the Jim and Pam arc. It's things like Pam flirting with Jim while engaged to Roy, Pam kissing Jim back while she was engaged to Roy, Pam wasn't honest to Roy about everything that had happened between her and Jim, Pam sabotaged Jim and Karen's relationship. The second group of arguments against Pam revolve around the art school arc in season 5 and the Philly arc in season 9. Comparisons are drawn between these two story arcs, and the narrative typically goes something like this. Jim supported Pam going to art school to follow her dreams, but Pam didn't support Jim going to Philly to follow his dreams. And the very last group of arguments is just what I'm going to call petty writers gotta write arguments. They normally include things like this. Pam lied about a position to force her way into a promotion after failing at being a salesperson. Pam was frantic about Michael dating her mom, and then equally frantic about him breaking up with her. And lastly, Pam gave people lice, lied about it, which resulted in Meredith taking the blame and shaving her own head. And there are more arguments, and there's more nuance and everything that people talk about here. But like I said, this isn't a pro-Pam video, but I think that there are a couple ideas that Pam haters need to consider here. While Pam was written to be a neutral character, no character on The Office is flawless. Everyone, including Jim, have entire episodes revolving about their own shortcomings. Pam has a solid character arc throughout the series. Pam moves from a meek and scared, settled young woman to a strong and confident woman by the end of the series. And Pam haters, writers gotta write. You can't show growth in a character if there are no weaknesses to grow from. And lastly, most of this is just straw man arguments. They either misrepresent the nuance of the story arc, or they're only true from a certain point of view.
A certain point of view?
Mainly the Philly Jim thing is the one that gets me every time. First, Pam went to art school before they were engaged. Secondly, Jim did celebrate Pam getting into art school. Jim, however, hid the start of his venture from Pam. Third, Pam did support Jim going to Philly. Troubles happened during the arc, but Pam never demands Jim come back. Fourth, Jim leaves Philly for the exact same reason that Pam left art school. And fifth, the one thing that Pam haters really seem to forget, Pam arranges everything so that they can uproot their life in Scranton so that Jim can follow his dreams.
Austin? Maybe?
I promise you, you don't have to do this for me.
I'm doing it for us.
And again, I don't mind people not liking Pam. She's a fictional character. I don't know her anything. Neither do you. But pure hatred that I see, that I don't get. So where does that come from? I think it comes from a mixture of maybe 3 different places. First, they don't understand what The Office is and how the characters of Jim and Pam are written. What happens when the writers use Jim and Pam, our neutral man and woman, for comedy, playing on their weaknesses, quirks, and shortcomings? Well, first, what has been normally easy to be able to relate to is now looking more closely like an ancillary character with really loud, odd quirks like Kevin, Angela, and Oscar. 2, I'd suggest that the writers having to write plot lines to demonstrate growth in these characters' weaknesses required spotlighting their quirks. So the point here is that Pam haters then may simply not understand how character arcs are written, and would have preferred the deepest these characters reach is whatever the equivalency of Jim face is.
Spot on. A little comment.
2, another place where this Pam hatred might come from is that there's a solid argument here for why Pam hatred may have nothing to do with the story arc of Pam in the series, but more to do with an overly empathetic response to Jim. We might project that Jim and Michael are the main characters of this story arc, and place Dwight as an adversarial companion to Jim and Michael, and Pam as a treasured companion. Thus, in the 2 problematic story arcs mentioned above, the story is viewed only from Jim's point of view. Pam haters then vilify Pam for relegating Jim to the friend zone, leading him on for years, destroying a relationship with Karen just for her own seemingly vindictive, selfish needs. This does sidestep that Jim was pining over something he couldn't have, consistently crossing boundaries to get what he wanted, and Pam, well, at the beginning of her story arc, she felt trapped in the relationship with Roy. You'll also notice that Roy is a pretty domineering and hot-tempered character throughout season 1. As the show moved on in the 2nd season, they cooled him off and turned him into more of a buffoon. That is until he finds out that Jim and Pam shared a kiss while they were engaged.
Don't yell!
Point being, it's entirely possible that Pam haters may have been friend-zoned by someone they deeply care about. Hurts from these past relationships might very well be projecting onto Pam motives and attitudes that are literally never shown in the show. And the last reason that someone might be a Pam hater? Well, maybe they're a troll. Many of these posts and comments that I see about Pam definitely fall into this category of nonsense. And these are just my thoughts. Again, folks, Pam is not real. I can't believe I'm making a video to tell people to lay off a character from a television show that aired its last episode over 6 years ago. Yes, Pam has problematic moments in the show, but I don't believe she deserves the pure, unadulterated hate that she gets. But what about you? What do you think? Are you a Pam hater? Let's start the conversation in the comments. And if you liked this, you might want to check out some of our Office field guides. We've been reviewing every episode of The Office, trying to bring depth like this into every episode. So thanks for watching. See you next time.
I think if they got to know me, they wouldn't hate me. But Karen knows me and she still hates me, so